Yo, what is good, guys? Another video here. Today we got how do Europe and the United States compare? Because I always see in the comments you guys always comparing the US to Europe and talking about, things Europe does a little better than the US. So I saw this video pop up in my feed and I was like, let's see how much of this stuff I see in my comments a lot, because you guys love to tell me about, the differences and all that, which I always find really interesting, so keep doing that. But I'm curious, so let's get to it.
Europe. One continent, 44 countries, according to the UN, and 746 million people. The United States are part of North America, only one country with 329 million people, less than half of Europe. The United States are often compared to the European Union or Europe as a whole a lot of times. So in this video, I thought it would be interesting to take a look at
That's crazy how many people you guys have. Of course, you guys are a whole continent, and we're just, a country, and we almost have half the amount, which is fucking insane. But, damn, you guys got that population.
A few indicators and check how it is that they in fact compare. We've already covered a few of the basics, amount of countries and population, but what about size? The United States have an area of around 9.8 million square kilometers, while Europe has a size of around 10.5 million, although this can vary depending on which limits you attribute to the continent. So now that we've covered all of those basics, let's jump into a few specific indicators and find out how the two compare. First, comparing the latitude. It's very interesting to see the overlay of the European cities on top of the US territory and vice versa. For instance, as stupid as it may sound, I had no idea Reykjavik was as further north as northern Canada. The same applies to Oslo. It makes sense that Portuguese and Spanish cities are on the same level as California, at least climate-wise, but it's weird, for instance, that Ankara is at the same level as Delaware. For some reason, I always thought it was so much further south. It's also strange to see that Los Angeles is on the same latitude as Algeria in North Africa, or that New York is at the same latitude as Azerbaijan. Speaking of Portugal, Spain and California, how do the US and Europe compare when it comes to the hours of sunlight they get every year?
Time out. Imagine living here, bro. Like, honestly, imagine living here, bro. Like, where it's like the dark red. And nah, bro. Fuck no. Man, I am staying right over here where it's nice and yellow in the nice state of Illinois. Bruh, hell no. The orange is cool too. Like, the orange here, that's cool too. But like the dark ass reddish orange shit and nah, fuck that.
Through this map, we understand that the Southwest USA gets more hours of sun than anywhere in Europe, over 3,500 a year. And unlike Europe, there's nowhere in the US that gets less than 1,800 hours of sun, as is the case in many areas of Europe, those in light green, blue, and dark blue. It's also odd, at least to me who isn't an expert on this matter, how the amount of hours of sun isn't directly related to the latitude of the region. I always assumed that the closer to the equator you are, the more hours of sun you get, but we can see on this map that this isn't the case at all, even though we can.
As far as sun goes, yo, the US, we are kicking y'all's ass. We get all the sun. The sun loves us. The sunshine is like, yes, give it all to the US. We are the shit. Y'all ain't even worthy of all the sunshine we get. Come on now.
And tell that usually southern areas get more sun. If you know which other factors determine hours of sun, let me know in the comments.
Yeah, seriously, jokes aside, if any of you guys can explain some of this stuff to me too, on the count of not giving a flying fuck during my school lessons and not paying attention to shit, half of this crap is going right over my head. I'm listening and trying to keep up with it and pay attention the best I can, but I don't understand the reason for all this stuff too. Kind of like what he said, if stuff is on the same latitude, I expected, and has similar weather, I'd expect the sun to be the same there roughly too. So that is very interesting to me.
Another interesting topic is human development. The United States and Europe are arguably two of the most developed areas of the world. This map compares the Human Development Index of each US state and each European country. In case you don't know, the HDI is calculated as the geometric mean of life expectancy, education, and gross national income per capita. Assuming that those indicators are representative of the quality of life of people, it seeks to measure precisely that. In the United States, there's only one state that doesn't make it into the top 3 HDI categories, Mississippi. When we look at Europe, only a handful of countries are in the top ranking. Iceland.
Hey, can we point out Illinois, my home state. We up here, bro. We up here. Come on. That surprises me. Honestly, I am surprised that Illinois is so high up there because a lot of stupid shit happens out here. You know what? North Carolina, I thought would be lower because I lived in North Carolina for a couple of years. I thought North Carolina would be like, I don't think it would be in the yellow, but I thought it would at least be in like the normal green. So I'm surprised by that too.
Norway, Sweden, Ireland, Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, and Switzerland. And when you look at Eastern Europe, these levels go significantly down, with many countries in the lowest category, such as Ukraine, Turkey, Serbia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Albania, and North Macedonia. In Western Europe, Portugal is the only country who isn't in the top 3 levels of HDI. A somewhat subjective comparison of these two areas is also depicted in this other map. This is based in a 2014 Pew Research Center poll. It's almost 10 years old, so the data might be somewhat outdated and no longer valid. Always keep that in mind for these types of videos where data and maps are presented. The data might not be 100% right and it might be outdated. But in this one, people were asked if they are absolutely certain of God's existence. And the comparison of the results between the US and Europe is...
Now this doesn't surprise me how in the South it's a lot higher compared to the farther, anywhere else you get. I like how then here's Florida. Florida is just doing its own, like the rest of the South, they all in the like 70 to 82%. Then there's Florida who's just like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna go be a Florida man and do my thing.
Is astonishing. The majority of US states have over 50% of people being certain of God's existence, some even surpassing 70%, those in dark blue. Only Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts have results under 50%, while most of Europe is much less certain in their belief of God. Most of the continent is in yellow, with only 10 to 29% being certain of their belief. Portugal, Poland, Slovakia, Lithuania, and Ukraine, along with Bulgaria, go up to 30 or 49%, but still not reaching over half of the population. The rest of the Balkans is more religious, but it's only Georgia and Armenia who reach the dark blue level. There's a few countries missing from this map, those in gray. If you have any idea of how religious they are, leave a comment below. Another interesting thing we can compare are age restrictions in the US and Europe. Age restrictions can be applied to driving, voting, tobacco, or alcohol purchases. Many of these change often, so be aware these might not be correct at the moment you watch. When it comes to driving, the US government allows people to drive at a much younger age. In South Dakota, it says you can drive at 14 years and 6 months.
I didn't know that. I thought everywhere was 16. I thought because you kind of start learning how to drive and get your permit and all that, could be around 15. But I thought in order to actually get your real like full-blown driver's license, you had to. I didn't know that. Okay. Oh.
That's kind of crazy if it's true.
Yeah,
the oldest
insane.
driving age in the US seems to be New Jersey at 17, while in
I wonder how, if anyone is from these states, like especially the state with 14, tell me, is that really true? If so, that's crazy. Yeah.
In Europe, the vast majority of countries has a 18 years minimum driving age. Only the UK, Iceland, Hungary and Georgia have lowered it to 17. When it comes to voting, 18 is common all around. Only in Europe are there two countries that differ, Austria at 16 and Greece at 17, although I'm not sure if these limits are the same for all types of elections. Tobacco purchase is technically only allowed over 21 in all of the US, while in Europe you can buy it at 18. Alcohol purchasing is also forbidden for people under 21 all across the United States, with the limit ages varying a lot across Europe, but none being higher than 18 or 20, although again this also varies depending on the type of alcohol. For instance, in Portugal I think you can buy beer or wine as long as you're over 18, but other drinks do have a 20-year age limit, I think. When it comes to comparison between military, for instance, it's a difficult comparison to make. According to Wikipedia, the US Army has a personnel of around 1 million, counting active troops, reserves, and National Guard. And according to this 2018 article from Business Insider, the top 5 strongest militaries in Europe, all of these maps exclude Russia, are France with 390,000, the UK 280, Italy 267, Germany 200, and Spain 175. Together,
so our military is fucking jacked. We are massive. I'm gonna be honest, I knew that. Like I didn't know it was a milli, but I knew we had like one of the biggest militaries in the world. So
these alone would surpass the US Army, although you'd still need to take into account the material advantage of the US. Ships, intelligence, tanks, planes, investment, and in these the US has a considerable advantage, as we can see from this graph depicting the investment comparisons. But thankfully most of Europe and the US are allied through NATO, so a comparison isn't needed.
No, reload that.
A considerable advantage.
God damn. That's Jesus. Yo, okay. Yo, America. Alright, y'all get onto me because I always say America when I'm talking about the U.S., which, you know, it's a fair point, but I'm just so used to saying it. But, like, yo, the U.S., we be going crazy. We be going crazy out here.
Advantage, as we can see from this graph depicting the investment comparisons. But thankfully most of Europe and the US are allied through NATO, so a comparison isn't needed because in the event of a conflict it is very likely they would be on the same side. And what about an economic comparison? The United States and the European Union are the two largest economies globally in nominal terms.
This is where I wonder if you guys start, you know, pulling ahead of us.
In recent years, only in 2011 did the European Union have a higher GDP than the US. Keep in mind this excludes non-EU Europe. The US's GDP per capita is 63,000, while in the EU it's 33. But keep in mind both of these are on average. There are EU countries and US states with higher and lower values. Also, as we can see from these maps, the US's GDP is mostly carried by California, Texas, Florida, and New York, while Europe's is mostly carried by France, Germany, the UK, Spain, and Italy. When it comes to currency comparison, as I make this video, 1 euro equals $1.07. The euro's value has been higher and recently its value has decreased a little, approaching parity with the dollar. As we can see from this graph, there was only a short period in the early 2000s when the...
So when was this? So this was recorded around... Oh, this was uploaded recently. Then why did it stop at 20... Okay, never mind. I see.
Euro was worth less than the dollar. There was a point where it was almost worth 50% more. Recently things have stabilized and they're almost worth the same, but with Croatia joining the European currency next year, it might go up again. Also keep in mind not all of Europe and not even all of the EU use the euro as their currency. Another interesting point.
We are closer than I thought. We are definitely closer. I actually kind of expected you guys to be above us, I'm not gonna lie, so interesting.
Compare is the percentage of young people aged 18 to 34 that still live in their family's home, meaning in most cases they do not yet have the financial stability to live on their own. Both of these maps have data from 2015, but from the most recent information I could find about this, the numbers haven't changed a lot. In Europe, Nordic countries have very low values. They're also the highest income areas, so it makes sense people can more easily afford to live on their own, but it might also have to do with the cultural element. In Southern Europe, the amount of young people still living at home is tremendous. 44% in Portugal, 37% in Spain, and 46% in Italy, for instance, while Greece, Bulgaria, and Slovakia are all above 50%. In the US, values are equally as high, with the difference being that there are no states at all below 10%. The lowest value is 14 in North Dakota, and the highest being in New Jersey with 46, although none surpass 50%. These high values are usually connected with the fact that salaries do not pay enough and the cost of living is way too high, both due to rising prices, inflation, and also other factors.
I wonder what it's like right now. Because this is from 2015 talking about the US. I wonder what it's like now with the real estate market going crazy. I bet you these are way higher today. Because, the cost for rent has gone way up recently. The housing markets, if you keep track of that, you already know it's been going apeshit. So it'd be very interesting to see what that is now. If anyone can find a chart, or maybe I'll try to look one up after this video, it'd be very interesting to see.
So, that is how the United States and Europe compare in a number of indicators and interesting aspects. There's a lot of things you can compare the two in. If you know of any more, leave a comment and I can always make a part 2 of this. It's always difficult to be fair in these comparisons. After all, the United States are a single country and Europe has around 44, but if you take into account that the US are a federal state consisting of 50 states, the comparison makes a little more sense.
And also you gotta keep in mind, in a lot of states, they almost have subcultures. They're not as, they're nowhere near as vast as how different European countries are. We're all still, United States citizens and, all that shit. But, for example, go bring somebody who's lived in Tennessee their whole fucking life and introduce them to, some guy from fucking Los Angeles, California. They are gonna be so fucking different. Just for the pure fact that they've grown up in such different environments. So there definitely is subcultures between the states where they almost in some ways are like their own little countries. I mean, not really, but kind of. You get what I'm saying? I hope you understand what I'm saying, because honestly I barely understand what the fuck I'm saying right now. Basically, different states have their own cultures in different ways.
Especially when the size of the two is similar. As we can see on this interactive map, the size of the US over Europe is pretty close. And as you saw in the beginning, the number of square kilometers are pretty close as well. In many ways they are similar, but in so many other big differences are visible, many of which signifying a great difference in the way that people live their life and the quality that life has. Thanks so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you want to catch future videos and leave a comment below with your opinions. I will see you next time for more general knowledge.
I'm surprised because I've been kind of going down this rabbit hole of Europe versus the US and how different countries compare to the US. Yet he took it in a different way, and I actually fuck with that a lot because I've heard so much of the same stuff in a lot of these videos that I was almost expecting to hear the same stuff again, but none of this stuff I've heard before. So, fuck yeah. Give me a fat ass like, subscribe, ring the bell, click all. Shout out to General Knowledge, man. This was actually a really good video. And it was very unique compared to a lot of other things I've seen. So, I gotta give him credit, man. Keep doing what you're doing. If you see this video, bro, shout out to you. To you watching this, comment Sprite. Bye.